That's the backdrop. Now, one of the players joining me tonight is Tennessee Democratic Congressman Steve Cohen, a member of the Judiciary Committee. Congressman, thanks so much for being with us.
Nice to be here.
Is this an impeachment inquiry in your mind?
Well, we're calling it an impeachment investigation, and it's probably a nuanced term instead of impeachment inquiry. We've been doing this for a while, having hearings that would lead up to this. We had the John Dean crowd, we had the Barbara McQuade crowd, and then we had Mueller. And after you've had Mueller, the next step is to get the actual players.
Don McGahn.
Don McGahn is the main player. Hope Hicks, who lied to us about knowing about payoffs to Stormy Daniels and Miss whatever. I call her Miss August. I don't remember her real name.
You're saying Hope Hicks categorically lied?
She said she knew nothing about those things.
Huh.
I asked her a specific question, and she said she knew nothing about it. And the papers that came out in the Southern District said that was not true. We want to get Miss Donaldson in, and Corey Lewandowski. And that's what you do in an impeachment investigation, is you put the parts together and you study what happened and you determine whether or not there's sufficient evidence to impeach. And should there be a duty to impeach? I think there is, but I understand people wanting to see more direct evidence.
Do you, as we've been saying, the next step is in the courts. It's possible that could drag out for a very long period of time and push this close to the election. Is there a time when it becomes too close to an election in your mind? Well, should that not play a role?
Whether it should or shouldn't, I don't think it should, because I think it's our duty as Congress people, when we believe strongly that there have been violations of our Constitution, and there have been. Individual one has done bad things in New York, and he's done bad things in Washington. And in Washington, he's not individual one. He's the guy that hides behind the Office of Legal Counsel's declaration that he can't be indicted as long as he's in office. So you really got a president who's been named in two different cases as a criminal. He's a criminal, lying Donald. That's what he is.
So if that is the case, then why not immediately move to impeachment, to impeach, if you believe that there's already
Well, I
evidence?
believe it, but I think you need the votes. And right now, we've got a little over 100 Democrats who believe that I think he should be impeached. But you need to have 218 people to impeach.
To those who say that Speaker Pelosi and others are slow walking this, essentially hoping it just sort of drags out and ultimately does not lead to impeachment, which some Democrats are clearly concerned will, fire up the president's base or in some way overtake the actual election and what the Democratic candidates talk about. What do you say?
Well, I don't think I think the president's is an expert at firing up his base. He knows what gets him, whether it's the four freshmen, whether it's saying he was exonerated, and he'll say that regardless. If we don't come and file impeachment, he'll say he was exonerated. There was nothing there. He'll call it a hoax. He'll say anything. So I don't think that really, I think we need to help fire up our base. And I think we need to do what's right. And he's looked at the emoluments clause. He's violated the emoluments clause. There's a lawsuit about it. But there's no question he's making money hand over fist. Now he wants the G7 to meet at one of his hotels. I mean, it's just constantly, it's a grift. This is the most, in my opinion, and a lot of other people's opinion, the most criminal group family to ever get in the White House. I mean, the Gambinos couldn't do anything more.
But, I mean, the Gambinos were actually prosecuted and evidence was found. That has not occurred yet.
Well, it has occurred. In this other district, he was individual one, and they chose not to. He should be with Michael Cohen up the river, wherever it is. And then in this case, if it weren't, at first he said, Mueller said that the elements were there, and it was only the OLC opinion, Office of Legal Counsel, that stopped him from indicting him. Then he came back when he got to the Intel Committee, he said, well, I phrased that wrong, blah, blah, blah. But think about this, Anderson. He said that he could be indicted after he leaves the presidency. And he said that one of the things about getting the evidence and preserving it is you get the evidence when it's fresh in people's minds, their recollection is the best, and they're the best witnesses. And so you get that and you keep it for some time. You don't keep that if there's not a crime.
So do you believe that Mueller's first answer to Congressman Lieu was essentially what Mueller actually felt?
It was what he felt, and it's really what happened. And I think he was counseled by his associates, his attorneys, and whoever else to say you need to be consistent with the report. I mean, you wouldn't have made a point of getting this evidence and keeping it if it wasn't a crime.
Mm-hmm. At what point would something become, okay, so this goes through the courts, and that takes however long. At what point would it actually become an impeachment process.
Well, I think Judge Howell will act promptly. Judge Howell has been in charge of this investigation. She's the judge in charge. She'll be accused of being everything short of having been in Benghazi when she makes her order. But I think she'll rule. The law's on our side. And we're basically an investigative body looking into impeachment, and whether it's an impeachment investigation or an impeachment inquiry, whatever it is, we're looking at impeachment. And as I mentioned, this gentleman, several scholars, his tribe's colleague, Matt's, wrote that everything's there, and that we've got Norm Eisen and Barry working with us, and they have made sure that everything was about the first Article 1 and use all of our Article 1 powers, and everything's been prefaced that way, and that's what the full Article 1 powers includes impeachment. And that's what it's about.
I want to bring in USA Today columnist Kirsten Powers, also CNN political analyst Kirsten Powers. I think she's got a question for you too, Kirsten.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm interested, Congressman, you keep saying there's a duty to impeach, but does that mean you impeach even if it harms the Democrats, even if it would potentially help reelect the president? It sounds like you're saying that you're willing to live with that even if you believed that it would help him get reelected, that you feel that this is the duty of the Democrats. Am I hearing that correctly?
Well, I think it's a duty of any congressperson. When you see what's happened, and a person who just he's obstructed justice, not just in the Mueller report, but he's obstructing justice now by telling everybody to avoid subpoenas, don't turn over documents. This is just wrong, and we need to stand up. But I don't think it'll hurt the Democrats. I think that the people, when they see the proof and they see the evidence come out and laid out before them, that they will see that this president is lawless, and they will support people that are in favor of his impeachment and be against people that aren't. And I really think that when the Democrats won in 2018, we won because people wanted to put a check and balance on this president, and they'll want to put not just a check and balance in 2020. They'll want to throw him out.
But does it? I mean, that would, an impeachment procedure would suck a lot of the oxygen out of the room for Democratic candidates out on the campaign trail. I mean, they would be talking about that a lot, and those who are concerned about impeachment process believe that would essentially stop them or prevent or lessen the amount of time they spent talking about, pocketbook issues and table.
Well, that's an issue, and I think Speaker Pelosi thinks that we need to concentrate on health care, which we do. But we've been talking about health care, and that's not the news. The news is impeachment and Trump. And when I'm at home, and I know my district is heavily African American, it's maybe the most African American district in the country, my people just tell me, stay on him, don't give up, don't let that man get away with this. So I think, and I know that's not representative necessarily of America, but I think a lot of Americans feel that when you see the polls, college-educated women, big time don't think he's telling the truth and he's trustworthy. The only group we're missing with is us, the white men.
Congressman Cohen, I appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming in.